Hello sir, good afternoon. I am part of the group 3 and my topic for today is all about the informatics solutions for emergency preparedness and response. So what are the things that we must do in case of emergency and what are the things that we must do kumbaga something in response sa atong pagabuhaton if na emergency. So first, let's talk about informatics. So what is informatics? According to Google, it is the study of structure, behavior, and interactions of natural and engineered computational system. It is also the studies of representation, processing, and communication of information in natural and engineered system. According to it, that informatics is not just only used in hospital but also in disaster response. It can be used in tracking victims, and electronic health records, supply inventory, and surveillance of threat detection. And also it helps in informing the volunteers about the plans and reports. So here in the Philippines, we experience tropical, in which we also experience like typhoons, floods, and earthquake, and so on. So early informatics contributions to the emergency planning and response agenda have focused largely on surveillance of threat detection. A broader assessment of possible informatics contributions unveils that informatics can also contribute to increasing the efficiency in disaster response, as well as providing a telepresence for remote medical caregivers. No, it's very understandable that informatics solutions for emergency preparedness and response is something ato anong pagabuhaton bitaw if naadto say emergency. So what is the role of informatics in disaster planning and response? But before that, let me tell you that the term disaster is often used synonymously with other terms such as emergency and crisis. And let me tell you what is the disaster. Disaster can be defined as a serious disruption of functioning of a community or society at any scale due to hazardous events. So, hazardous events ning disaster, and same na po siya sa emergency. So, the role of informatics in disaster planning and response is, in disaster informatics, it is the study of and design, development, and use of information and communication technologies by people and organizations to generate, gather. Again, disaster informatics, it is to generate, gather, and process, store, and distribute information required for improving decisions and actions in preparation, mitigation, and response. So, sabotable kayo siya. And according to the study of the US, today more than 40 countries with a combined population of more than 1.3 billion are faced with emergencies and humanitarian crises, resulting in both planning and response efforts. So kinahanglan gid siya og too much effort gid ta for us to bitaw ma-prevention na nato ang whatever emergencies or crises nga maaabot sa atua, not just in hospital but as well as sa gawas sa hospital. And they also include the effective response. Earlier response by the informatics community focus on contributions towards surveillance of threat detection, kumbaga gina-check yun, biosurveillance and bioagent detection, and increasing the efficiency in disaster response, and of course, providing a telepresence for remote medical caregivers.
So these are the 5 aspects of emergency preparedness. U.S. Presidential Policy Directive 8 outlines emergency preparedness and management effort using these 5 independent missions areas, which are the preventions, protections, mitigations, response, and recovery. So for the preventions means that the capabilities necessary to avoid death or stop an imminent crime or threaten or actual casualty incident. Prevention is the actions taken to prevent a threaten, taken to prevent or actual incident. So, prevention ito ay nangangahulugan ng kakayahan para para upang ma-avoid natin yung mga hadlang or para mapahinto natin ang mga krimen or insidente na ating or insidente na mangyayari. So, dapat natin i-prevent. So, these are the example of preventions strategies, which are the area hazards and vulnerability, workplace, campus violence, preventions programs. The third is street assessment teams, situational awareness. So, prevention means that we need to avoid those insidente na mangyayari. The second emergency preparedness is protections, means that the capability to secure against acts of violence and man-made or natural disasters. Protection focuses on ongoing actions that protect people and property from threat or hazard. Meaning is, ang protection is, ito ay kakayahan upang matiyak natin at labanan ang mga gawang karahasan. So, these are disasters na mangyayari sa mga tao. So, this protections focuses on to protect people. Yan, protektahan ang katauhan sa isang pangyayari na mapanganib. So these are the examples of protection strategies, which is storm shelters, security, assessment safety, physical security, and security suffering. So those are the example of strategies of protections. So the third aspect of emergency preparedness is mitigations. So mitigations means the capability necessary to eliminate or reduce the loss of life and property damage by lessening the impact of an event or emergency. We also define mitigation as reducing the likelihood that threats and hazard will happen. So, these mitigations, ang ibig sabihin ng mitigation is, ito ay kakayahan na kailangan maalis at mabawasan ang mga pagkawala ng buhay at pinsala sa mga ari-arian. So, sa pamamagitan ng protection, sa pagbawas ng protection ng isang kaganapan o emergency. So, protections is this focuses to lessen the isang possible na posibleng pangyayari na pagbanta at mapanganib sa mga katauhan. So these are the examples of strategies about mitigations, which are collaborations. So this is very important, is collaborations para mapatagumpayan kung ano ang mga emergency o pangyayari na nangyayari. So, emergency plans, site planning or site mapping, and training. So, these are very important for mitigations. And the fourth, these are the fourth aspects of emergency preparedness, which is the response. So, response means that the capabilities necessary to stabilize an emergency once it has already happened or is certain to happen in an unpreventable way to establish and safe, secure environment, save lives and property, and facilitate transition to recovery. So, ang mitigation ay ang response meaning is to ito ay kakayahan upang patatagin ang isang emergency. So, ito ay importante para matiyak na upang matiyak natin na hindi maiwasan ang mga paraan. So, dapat tayong matatag sa isang ligtas at ang isang ligtas sa ang mga buhay ng mga ari-arian. So, you need to response para mapadali ang paglipat at mabawi ang mga ari-arian. So, these are very important also for the aspects of emergency preparedness. So, these are the examples of strategies about response. So, site, campus safety teams, so internal response, first responders, external response, technology. So, these are also the na important para to help and emergency plans, signs, sites, mapping, automated alerting, mass notifications. So, those are the examples of response strategies. And the fifth aspect of emergency preparedness is recovery. So, recovery means the capabilities necessary to assist in restoring the normal emergency. So it means that recovery is, ibig sabihin, ito ay pagbawi ng kakayahan upang makatulong o tumulong sa pagpapanumbalik or parang pagbabalik sa normal. At ito ay upang ma-operations, and the important is the operations pagkatapos ng emergency. So, this is very important also, is the recovery. So, these are the examples of recovery strategies, which are the mental health plans, family reunifications plans, businesses, continuity operations plans. So this is a very important in the strategies of response. So those are the 5 aspects of emergency preparedness.
Good day, sir. I am Erica in Pampilo, and I'll be report about this topic: Informatics solutions for emergency preparedness and response. So, informatics is not only used in hospital, but also in disaster response. Ang kaning mga informatics sa solution for emergency preparedness and response kay ginagamit kini sa pagtaking sa mga biktima. So, its electronic health records, tracking, and supplies inventory of surveillance of threat detection. So it also helps for people informing the volunteers about the plans and reports. Then we don't know these calamities and disaster strike, but we need to be ready. Dapat jud ta mag-andam kay wala ta kabalo sa mga panahon karon kay daghang kay mga emergency nga nahitabo sa tua, if ever kung na may mga bagyo ba or else sa mga sunog. So dapat kita mag-prepare. If ever kung we don't want to repeat what happened in the past, wherein many people died and lost their loved ones as well as their properties, and they work hard. Having the informatics in emergency planning and responses, ug dako kay siya makatabang sa atohang nasod. Kaya nga sa mga tao sa hanglan sa mga atua, because it can help in giving status reports, can warn them of an upcoming typhoon or other disasters. So needed yun nato ni atong emergency and response sa atong life. So what is emergency preparedness and response plans? So Emergency preparedness is a well-known concept in protecting workers' safety and health. Putting together a comprehensive emergency action plan involves conducting a hazard assessment to determine what, if any, physical or chemical hazard inside or from outside the workplace that could cause an emergency. What are the examples of emergency preparedness? So these are the examples of emergency preparedness. So sound the alert, then evacuate danger zone, close main shuts offs, then call the external aid, initiate rescue operations, attend to casualties, and fight fire. Mao tong mga examples sa mga emergency preparedness. If ever kung na mga emergency like naisunog or naay baha, so mo evacuate jud ng mga firefighters. So, what are the 4 basic responses to emergency? May upat ka buok na basic. Then these common elements, common ka na siya. Allow you to prepare for and protect yourself and your animals from disasters. Emergency managers think of disaster as recurring events with 4 phases: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Manas lang upat ka buok ang basic responses sa mga emergency. Alang-alang ni sa tong mga kaayuhan sa mga tao. So, ang si mitigation, for example sa mitigation, include the hazard-specific control activities such as flood, leaves, or bush fire mitigation strategies. So, in design improvement to infrastructure of services, so it can use planning and design and decisions to avoid developments and community and structure in areas prone to hazard. Dapat jud ta malikhayan ang atong mga aksidente sa kung karong panahon dagan jud kay mga aksidente sa karong panahon, no? Wa ta kay balo kung kanus-a jud ta if ever kung mo atake nga mga bagyo, so kailangan jud to mag-prepare sa tong self. So, what are the 4 basic responses to emergency? So, these common elements allow you to prepare for and protect yourself and your animals from disasters. Emergency managers think of disasters as recurring events with 4 phases: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Ang kaning upat ka buok nga basic siya sa response and emergency kay mga common siya, mga pinaka-common siya. So, need yun to mag-prepare sa tong self if ever wata kabalo sa panahon nga unsa atong mahitabo karon, if ever kung bagyo ba or nabay sunog. So, ang mostly magud sa mga panghitabo karon is bagyo, di ba? Baha, mga floods, then naputay mga earthquake. So, we need to alert. So, we need to prepare ourselves para po sa mga kaayuhan sa itong mga katawhan. So dapat yun nata mag-andam o maglikay sa mga butang nga watakbulo sa mga panahon. So, mao ning mga informatics technology for the preparedness and response to emergencies. So, maora na. Then, thank you and God bless.
So let's proceed to what are the examples of emergency preparedness. So, includes plans or preparations made to save lives and to help response and rescue operations. Evacuation plans and stocking food, water are both examples of preparedness. Siyempre, need man jud ta mag-stock of food and water for emergency purpose kung sa may mahitabo na coming nga mahitabo. And preparedness activities takes place before an emergency occurs. So here are some examples of emergency preparedness. So example here is the declare emergency. So government will declare emergency in advance so that people around his or her territory that will know what will happen, and declares emergency
when disaster has occurred or may be imminent that is severe enough to require state aid to supplement local resources in preventing or alleviating damage, loss, hardship, or suffering. Next is the sound, the alert. The sound of the alert is the use to warn or natural disaster or attacks or warn people from danger. So, kaning sa sound the alert, so, kung makadungog man siguro tong mga siren, no, so, kung makadungog tong mga siren, so, na siya, kuan ka ng, kanang silbi warning, dyan na siya kung naay mahitabo, nga kami nga mahitabo sa atua, or sa atuang palibot. So, next is evacuate danger zone. Having an evacuation plan will not only provide people with the best possible tools for getting out of the building safely, but they will also be able to do it in a calm manner. It is important to know which room to shelter and what to do to stay safe while there. So, syempre, when dangers happen, dapat nakaplano na sa tuwa nga nanadyo ta evacuation area para dito ta maka-shelter kung kanus mahuman ang mga danger nga nang niabot sa atuang palibot. So next is the close main shut-offs. So here is controls all the water for your home is the best protection against catastrophic water damage. So naman jud na main ang mga water supply sa tuwa. So para ma-prevent nato ang mga baha-baha sa tuang palibot kanang baha sa tong palibot para dili mo apaw ang tubig. Siyempre kung natay lakaw dapat natong i-close jud ato ang main para dili magsigig awas ang tubig sa ato ang balay. And next is call for external aid. Provides immediate support during or after a disaster. So makinahanglan man jud tag mga support kanang after sa mga disaster. So dili ta maulaw mangayo og tabang para lang sa ato ang safety. So next is initiate rescue operation. This will prevent fatalities and injuries. So, kung naaman gali ka ng mga gamay ng mga samad-samad or any kind of injuries nga atong gibati sa atong lawas, mangayo jud ta dayon og tabang para ma-prevent nato or para ma-rescue dayon sa mga facilities nga naa ang area. So next example is attend casualties, minimize the loss of life and maximize patient recovery. The last is fight fire, to save lives, protect property, and protect the environment. So, if kaya nato nga tabangan ang mga bumbero, so why not? Kung kaya nato, edi mo tabang ta just to save our lives and save our home and save our family and our people surrounds us.
Okay, so how informatics are utilized during catastrophe? So, informatics and technology solutions such as smartphones, tablets, and other wireless devices may help gather information or signals to detect potential incidents earlier, regardless of the cost, and communicate early warning and critical updates and faster electronic information. Okay, so how informatics are utilized during catastrophe? So, informatics and technology solutions such as smartphones, tablets, and other wireless devices may help to gather signals to detect potential incidents, regardless of the cost, and communicate early warnings and critical updates and faster electronic information exchange worldwide.
So, hello, good day all. And my in my topic is about what roles and disaster preparation and response might nurses and involved in. So, as a nurses are the largest group of healthcare providers, they play significant roles in preparing for disaster. So, for preparing in disasters, we have to identify the risk, analyzing identified risk, creating plans and participating education and training activities, and identifying areas for development and improvement. So, unsa man ining identifying risk? Identifying risk is a nurses is you to protect the lives and livelihood of community and individuals who are most vulnerable to disaster or emergencies, whether it is human or nature crisis. So unsa man jud pag naay disaster, unsa man jud ang maapektuhan, kinsa man jud maapektuhan, di ba? Maapektuhan di ba kita mga tawo, atong kinabuhi ug atong mga panginabuhi. So mo na imuhang as a nurse, you need to identify the risk. Ang tao jud mismo kita sa komunidad, sa atoang lugar. So analyzing the identified risk. Analyzing the identified risk, one is to identify threats. So analyzing identified threat risk is we have three types of identifying identified risk. One is identified threats, and two, estimate risk. Identified threats, the first step in risk analysis is to identify the existing and possible threats that you might face. So, pag nanagan disaster, for example, earthquake, imo na siyang, syempre, ikaw, sa imong kagalingon as a nurse, unsa jud ay mahitabo na as a pag naay ka ng earthquake, for example, ang gusali, ang building, nanghugno ng mga building, nahugno ang mga semento, mga sa amin ning ana, di ba, naman jud nay mga possibility, big possibility nga mga hulog ang mga objects sa usa ka building. So unsa man imuhang buhaton nga ning ana? So estimate risk. Once you've identified the threats you're facing, you need to calculate both the livelihood of these threats being realized and their possible impact. So syempre, mga nga na, for example, earthquake, typhoon, that is the disaster, di ba? O maepektuhan jud ana ang mga livelihood sa usa ka tawo. And so, we are example lang, focusing na to earthquake. Nya maadto ta didto as a nurse, nakabalo ka ni nga nang mahitabo, walay kuryente, dagag mga butang nga pwede mga hulog. Unya mato ka didto, wala kay mga protective gear sa imong lawas, wala kay gidala para maprotektahan pud ang imuhang self, wala kay prepare para sa imong kaugalingon. So as analyzing the identified risk, kabalo ka nga naay mga possible nga mga hulog dito nga mga butang. So you need to self preparation pud kay this is a very kanabang dangerous kayo nga imuha bitong imuhang trabaho as a nurse, kay imo jud na siya responsibilidad nga motabang sa usa ka tawo, miskin balabag sa imong kaluban, usa man day purpose sa imong kurso, di ba, motabang sa mga tawo nang hinanglan sa imuhang tabang as a nurses, as a health provider. So you need to personal preparation, magdala kag emergency plan or emergency kits and basic emergency supplies. Mana na siya ang mga emergency kits o sanana dito. And then unsa man ang mga basic emergency supplies, unsa man medisina, emergency kit, butan nimo dito walay kuryente, so magdala ka og flashlight, di ba? Magdala kag flashlight. And then sa imong lawas, pwede po ka mag-shield baka ka or mag-knee pads baka ka for protect your knee, or pwede baka inigdagan-dagan nimo ana kay kuan man kanang daghan naman mga tawaan nang hinalan si mong tabang, pinidanga ba mo, or pwede nga kanang madagma ka, maka-protect pod sa imuhang tuhod or something, baka nga mag-helmet ka dinha nga basta protective gear sa imong lawas. So, unsa man ang mga creating plans? Ang creating plans atong buhaton. Creating plans is a procedure for coping with mass casualties or massive disruptions of normal healthcare services as a result of human and natural catastrophes. So, in creating plans, we have the ICN is a framework of disaster nursing competencies, consists of 4 stages and disaster plans in management. ang pagmuhatag data creating plans na ay mga disaster nursing competencies nga plans and management of the disaster. So first is the prevention, 2 is preparedness, 3 response, preparedness and precaution, 4 is response and recovery. So sa prevention, is defined as regulatory and physical to measure that emergencies are prevented or their defects mitigated, and mitigation of the fines and measures taken in the advance of disaster aimed at decreasing and eliminating if the impact of society and environment. So, you have to prevention. As a nurse manggod sa medical field na manggod na siya mga laws. Pag may ganita og regulatory measure na ni mga rules and regulations, administrative action, dili ka basta-basta nga musulong lang ka dito, mutabang ka. Unya ang kanay mong gimo di ay kay labag po din na sa batas as a nurse, as a health provider, labag po din na. So pag yung regulatory measure naning mga naanay po tay mga rules and regulation as a nurse nga if there is emergency cases nga tabangunon, dili ta pwede basta-basta mo sulong ta didto nga ang ato ding ipanghimo labag na sa tabatas as sa labag sa batas sa usa ka tawo o sa ato ang profession. So ang kaning mga prevention nga gihimo karon nato as we see sa common no sa TV or sa personal nga may tabo sa atong lugar mo na siya yung mga prevention nga giaprobahan or gihatagan nga approve nga kani improve kuan siya kanang effective siya nga pag-prevent sa usa ka nurse to prevent how the nurse prevent if there is a disaster kay mo man na siya kay naman na siya yung mga kuan magud kato nabasahan ako nga resources na siya yung mga survey pod ba nganing ana pag ang usa ka action nga prevention pag effective na siya mo na siya gikahatag og kanang bali gihatagan siya og presensya ba gihatag siya og gihatagan siya og tagan siya mga importansya nga kanang mga prevention is effective to the society and as a nurse also. So kani and precaution usa mga precaution di ay nga pwede nato ihatag or pwede nato nga i-explain nga maitabang nato sa mga tawo to stay informed. Pag there is a disaster gani dapat updated pud ta mga tawo no dili kay ang mga nurse ray updated dapat kita pud nga updated pud ta dapat natay miskin radio battery nga radyo or cellphone dapat natay mga ningana kwanta well prepared ta ba if there is emergency cases may tabo sa tuwa so have plan for evacuation and emergencies. So paglala na gani ang sitwasyon direkta dayon nga bato sa mga evacuation area. And then rest on hand. And then kit on hand, mga medication kit. And then avoid necessary risk and go to the safest area in your home. Magkuanta ka ng ang di ba pag natay mga earthquake cover and hold man ta di ba sa mga sa eskwelahan ginatudloan man ta naman jud tay mga earthquake drilling ana. So bali pwede po na siya makatabang sa tuwa to go to the safest area in your home nga while nga nag-cover and hold ta sa to ang ulo. And then lantaw-lantaw po ta sa tong palibot ug nga unsa dili kay magpatakarag dagan bisag asa nya wala na ka naglantaw-lantaw unsay nahitabo sa imong kaugal sa imuhang palibot na bay tabunan ba ka dinha or kuanan ba ka mahulugan ba ka din nag mga kahoy ba ka. So, usaon pag-prepare di ay pag naay mga disaster as a nurse and how to prepare. What is prepare di ay? Activate the disaster plan in their hospitals. And then, kanang taning mga prepared di ay dapat dili kay kita mga nurses preparado di ba asa pud ang mga sa hospital pod kay na may tendency jud na possible jud nga may tabo if there is a injuries di ba nagamag mga injuries ana jud pag ang usa ka tawo kay kanang na kuan siya dito ba na pointed jud siya dito siya sa usa ka lugar nga naay mga nahulakan ba siya dinha naay mga nangahulog or something ba kung typhoon pod ba ka kanang nahulugan sa haligi sa balay mga ning ana. So dapat po ang hospital is activate po sila sa disaster plan. Ang kanani ang mga pwede nila ihatag ani is mga ambulansya, mga rescuer, mga health providers po. Dili lang kitay mga nurses ang pwede pod ang moadto didto, pwede pod ang doktor, di ba? And then triage case, ang kanang triage case gani diha na siya sa kuan ni siya sa hospital na siya nga diha sa area na siya gi-assign din na nga mga nurses nga to assess sa patient. For example, anay asa ka pasyente didto nga nahulugan sa ang ulo og kanang kahoy inya nagdugo-dugo. Ang triage case adto na siya didto. Sila nang mag-assess sa usa ka pasyente unsa siya, kumusta iyang gibate, wala ra ba nalipong, unsa man kanang unsa pa iyang mga injuries sa lawas, sila na yung mga utana, sila na yung mga emergency assessment na sila nga para mahatag ang immediate action sa usa ka pasyente, immediate treatment. So provide emergency treatment for injured people. Unsa man pwede pod oxygen, defibrillation katubang kuano katong iana na siya then 1 2 3 sa clear ana ba 1 2 3 clear. And then direct pressure, for example kung nakay ang direct pressure maguna nakatuna siyang murag panyo bitaw nga murag tela na siya sa emergency kit na siya nya to stop the bleeding. For example na yung mga na nagdugo-dugo din na nasama, to stop the bleeding mo na siyang i-cover dito mo na siya pwede po siya panyo apply direct pressure na siya. And then kung ano sa pa jud, pwede po maghatag og kanang wheelchair katong di nakalakaw og katong and then ventilators pod katong paipump lang bitaw si mong baba ang hangin niya to siya. And have coordinate evacuations, transportations of patient to other medical facilities. Mo na siya akong giingon nga ang katong emergency, mga injuries people, ihatag na siya kuan na siya sa hospital, kanang dalo na siya sa hospital. And then relief goods, unsa may preparado po ang mga nurses pod pwede po siya. Dili man kay mga nurses maghatag og relief goods. Ang kuan man ang kanang sabana mayor baka din ha basta ang gobyerno man matag, pero pwede pod ang health providers matag og relief goods. And how to ang kaning kuano unsa may pod mga buhaton sa mga tawo in preparedness if there is a disaster. Drinking water at least 1 gallon per person per day, and non-perishable food such as canned veggies and protein bars, and manual can opener, the flashlights, and portable battery and extra batteries, first aid kit, and a crack or battery powered radio. Mana siya dapat na jud mga radio kundi cellphone para updated ang mga tawo unsay mahitabo kung asa dapit ang katong na evacuation area ni ana. And then response and recovery. Dre na ta sa response and recovery. Nurses assess populations to overcome great adversity and stress that often occur in disasters by facilitating individuals, families, and communities to use available resources to respond and recover. So if there is sa evacuation area or sa hospital, same ra gihapon ang response and recovery of the nurses. Kay ang response sa nurses manggod and recovery, they response for the situation, the emotional and feelings of the mga pasyente. Kay nabay uban ma-stress tungod sa nitabo, ma-stress sila, na ay uban traumatic. And then they are going to assess the patient nga, ma'am, sir, kumusta man ka, unsa man imong gibati karon. And then they are going to kanang sympathy ba kanang good kanang maghatag pud kag kanang hope ba sa usa ka pasyente nga na kay kamata ang atuang as a nurse magud ang atua yung core ana sa tuang profession is to help the illness dili ka well and well and illness, di ba, magkuan man jud ta ana sa tuang pasyente. So maghatag kag hoping, and then nga ma'am sir ay kabala ka kanang maabot rang kuan ra ni kanang pagsulay ra ni ning ana, naray mo tabang sa tua, ilan jud tag kawad-an og kanang paglaom ning ana, maulian ra kasi mo sakit sir ning ana. Then paghuman, and then you need to assess the patient also, and then you need to kanang imo objective nga ma-recover sila sa ilang mga balatian, sa ilang mga feelings. And then to recover, pag man sa recover, wala na kanang okay na dahil ng pasyente, accomplish na din na sa imo as a profession nga imuhang trabaho, imuhang na hatag sa ila ba fully responsible kay ka sa ila nga imong profession, wala ra jud na sayang, no, not be sa feeling aning anak ka. And then participating education and training activities, unsa man ni siya? Participating education and training activities, health teaching. the key components of and then to avoid risk reduction and response planning, mo na siya nga dili sa pag naanagin man ning ana, di na sila makayo magpanik, kabalo na sila unsaon pag buhat if there is an earthquake or if there is a mga disaster, typhoon, o sa pabana din na. So, danita sa participating education and training activities, health teaching, participating education. For example, dito na ka sa evacuation area, no, nga may kasagaran man dyan na, crowded na mga tao. Nya, dagan na kay tao din ha, kanagubot na, crowded kaayo. So, you are conduct health teaching, education, mag-educate ka dito sa mga tao nga to proper hygiene, how to do proper hygiene, use of medications, if there is nga naghilangtan, dili ka imnan dayon og antibiotic, bawal man na siya, di ba? Di man na siya mao. You need to educate the use proper of medication and sanitize pod ka. And then cleaning, you need to ventilate the area of the la, tudloan nimo sila unsaon ni pagkuan, unsaon ni paghimo, unsaon pagpalimpyo ning ana sa pagpaligid to avoid spread of infections, di ba? So kaning training activities, ang kanang mga nurses manggod misamo ta katong mga rescuer, dili na sila basta-basta nga moadto didto nga dili ka kabaloon sa imong buhaton, basi magtanga ra ka dito mo, ikaw pa man imo dagan nga na makuyapan na nung ka didto. So bali napon na sila, they are also undergo sa training pod, and then how to do first aid kit ning ana, how to do kanang prevention for if there is kanang na injuries, unsaon paghikot sa mga asa to dapit nga bali or na injured sa imong lawas, and then how to do CPR ni ana, di ba? And then pwede po siya sa kanang shocking, if there is kanang sa shocking kanang other cases na nampod na siya, pero nadyo na siya mga training activities usa ka nurse. Kita ana makakuha na pud na maka-training ta na pohon. And then sa amua bitaw kaning training activities sa mga nurses dito sa amua kanang tungula pay pandemic, sa plaza na sila gakuan, sa plaza na sa kay sa poblasyon man mi, so bali every purok ilahan nang gimeetingan, gipatawag ang mga presidente dito isa-isa nga there is program bitaw, activity program sa mga nurses nga magtudlo unsaon pag if there is an injured, if there is an earthquake, if there is an kanang mga sunog, naman po dito ang mga firefighters. So muna siya kaya tudloan sila mga tao dito nga magtapok na sila ito sa plaza mo to amo sa una. Then mo to gituluan sila nga ning anion pagkuan si PR, ning anion kanang paghikots if there is ang kanang injured, if there is kanang nagdugo ang ulo ning ana bitaw, gitugluan sila ning ana. So mo ni ang mga kuan ha, mo ni ang mga rules of the nurses and preparation of in disaster involved in. So as a nurse, mo ni siya kita mga largest group of healthcare providers nagplay tag significant role in preparing for disaster. So one, define risk. Mo tingon ako nimo nga imo na siyang identified kung asa dapit, kung unsa mahitabo if there is if earthquake, typhoon, mawad man jud mga kurente ning ana, di ba? Katong ako ganina. And two, analyzing identified risk. Ikaw mo analyze pud ka sa pagka ma-analyze nimo ang risk, unsay imong buhaton as a nurse, sa imong kaugalingon, self preparation, and creating plans. 3, creating plans, unsa may mga plano nga buhaton as a nurse. And then participating education and training activities, unsaon nimo sila pag-educate, unsaon nimo sila pag-share sa kanang sa activities and program activities training if there is a earthquake or disaster or typhoon, di ba? Disaster naman na. So mo na to. How to prevent, creating plans, how to prevent, how to prepare, response, recovery, and precaution. So, dali na tama na ko Salamat sa pagpaminaw o good day everyone. Bye.
The role of technology and informatics in disaster planning and response. It is clear that technology and informatics are becoming increasingly important in disasters and humanitarian response. Technology is a critical tool to recording, analyzing, and predicting trends in data that could not be achieved prior to its implementations. Informatics is the translation of this data into information, knowledge, and wisdom, combining technology and technology and informatics application with response effort has resulted in various enhanced biosurveillance efforts, advanced communications, and information management during disasters. So, it's technology and informatics ga increase siya labaw during disaster and humanitarian response. So, ang technology, critical tool, recording, analyzing, predicting in trends in data that could not be achieved prior to its implementation. So, informatics is translation of this data. Translation of this data into information. So, ang informatics daw ga-translate using data into information, knowledge, and wisdom. Like, mag-Google ta, di ba? Makakuha tag information, knowledge, and wisdom. Depends po sa imong gi-search. So, combining technology and informatics application with response effort has resulted in various enhanced. So kani nga result kay ang various enhanced niya kay biosurveillance efforts, advanced communication, and information management during disaster. So unsa nang biosurveillance efforts? So, ang biosurveillance efforts kay ga-detect niya ang biological threats and makakuan po siya, maka-threats to human-animal health, whether infection, toxic, metabolic, or otherwise. Like, ang biosurveillance ay kuan siya, program nga need pud siya data. Then advanced communication, then information management during disasters.